Welcome everybody. I'm starting up a new course, Painting with Stillness. And I thought it would be a good idea to do a demo and explain a bit about the course. Before I do that, I want to speak a little bit of an intro about how I understand painting and teaching painting. And I'll move into an introduction of the course. Speak a bit about the logistics of the course, how we'll set it up, how it'll work, and then I'll move into a few demos, 2 or 3, depending on what kind of time we have, question and answers, and then, as well, if you've got some questions along the way, feel free. If it gets to be too much, then we'll wait till the end, but I assume it'll be fine. And this is being recorded. So if you need to duck out early, or other folks, or anyway, it's recorded and I'll make it available. Yeah. So painting with stillness. So I see painting, both the doing of the painting and the teaching of the painting, as working with both stillness and movement. When we look at a painting, the painting is there. It's done. It's not moving. But our experience of the painting happens over time, right? There's this movement as we look at the painting. So it's both still and movement. And then as we learn to paint as well, there's an aspect of slowing down, being still as we work. And then there's also all kinds of exploration and all kinds of movement, and we're trying out stuff. And so there's this combination of stillness and movement. And a lot of the courses that I've been offering over the years deal with movement, whether it's Painting Through Modern Masters, that whole series, or abstraction as discovery, and all that play and spontaneity and working with materials, painting as creative empowerment, and we're working with different emotional states. So there's all this exploration of different ways of moving as we're painting, energetically or literally. And then there's painting with stillness, and it generally comes into the foundational courses when we're developing our skills, our foundational skills, how to look at something, how to translate the still life into 2 dimensions, into how do we find the geometry, how do we find the values, how do we find the tonal relationships, how do we work with the paint, how do we find the edges, right? All of these foundational skills, as we develop them, we are learning to slow down. Can't do it unless you slow down. And whether we know it or not, it is a mindfulness practice. In order to see what I'm not seeing, in order to find the values, in order to see the proportions, it's like, oh, I have to be here. I have to land. I can't be thinking about all the things I have to do later. I can't be, right? I just have to clear and ground and stabilize my attention. And so, it's actually, that's a gift that painting gives us as we're developing. It's like, oh, I have to leave everything out there. And so this will be, Painting with Stillness is going to be focusing on skill development, like quite literally, right? Measuring value relationships, color relationships, how to mix, all those pieces with still life. But it will also be overtly working with our attention, working with our getting grounded, working with being in the moment as we work. And those things really work together, of course, because as we stabilize our attention, we see more. The work itself starts to hold that kind of present moment attention, present moment awareness. So the work starts to like, oh, that's really nice. Starts to have more presence, right? And so those things just start really working together. So the course isn't, it's not going to be like we're in a meditation hall or something. It's not like that. We're going to be, each of us in our homes or studios, working with a simple still life. And I've been mulling over how to set things up logistically so that it could be parallel, similar to what I'm able to do here in the studio when people come in and we have a foundations course here in the studio. So how we're going to do that, let's see. Hopefully you're all familiar with Zoom protocol. Like you can see there's all these different windows that you've got. And I've got right now 3 different camera views, right? So there's one of this one, the close-up on the paper, right? Then there's one back there. There's a view. You can see I've got a tripod here that I'm talking into, right? Right? So how we're going to set this up is you're going to have a simple still life. You're going to take a picture with your phone of this still life. There's a really nice app called Padlet. And it's like you're looking at a blank wall and everyone will have their column. And you're going to put your photo from your phone up on that white wall. So I'll be able to see what you're seeing from your point of view. And then you're going to have 2 camera views, just like we have here. And one can be your, like you would on an online, you know, whether it's your phone or it's your iPad or it's your desktop, okay? Then, and this is in the materials list, you're going to have a tripod, a little cell phone clip. You can see what I'm pointing to in that 3rd camera. You've got a tripod, cell phone clip. So you're going to be able to put a view on your work as you're working. So I'm going to be able to see as I look through the different windows what you're doing. Like I'd be walking around the room, you know, like what we have here, you know, Wednesday mornings, we have our still life in the middle, and, you know, I walk around the room and see what everyone's doing, and then I'm able to comment, right? Okay, so each of you will have 2 camera views. One like this, just the regular, like you know, the talking back and forth. And the other is going to be focusing on your work, whether it's the drawing or the painting. So I can see clearly what you're doing. And then I'll be able to check that with the photo that you've uploaded on Padlet. So then I'll be able to come around and say, oh, wow, that's no, the proportions are different, or, you know, there's more contrast, or whatever it is, like we would in a normal still life class, going through the different formal elements. And so that way we'll be able to set up a situation that will be really similar to just being in the course room together and working in the studio. And then everyone's going to be working at their own pace. So, you know, some people may be more familiar with the geometry and the proportions, more comfortable. Some people, you know, are more comfortable with values. And so everyone's going to be just developing at their own pace. At the end of every session, of every online session, we'll all gather together and share the work and talk. But during the 2.5 hours, I'll be both going around and talking with all of you individually with what's going on with your work, with your skill development, and I'll be also doing my own still life as you know, and so you can watch me working as well. I'll have 3 camera views. So that one that's back there looking at all of this, it's probably going to be focusing a lot on the palette. So you can see me mixing, and we'll be going over that as well as we get there. So we're going to be covering developing basic foundational formal elements like line and geometry. So being able to see the proportions of the forms and the spaces in between the forms. Then we'll move into value and value relationships and the darks and the lights. And we'll be looking at tonal relationships, and we'll be dealing with warm and cool. We're dealing with saturated versus muted. And so there'll be very particular groups of colors that we will be working with in order to focus on that. I'll be demonstrating mixing tones, handling the paint, edges, and there will be some things that we will have access to that doesn't come in so readily in a studio class, actually, because I'm going to be working, and they'll be able to, you can see how I'm handling the paint. You do some close-ups of that. Yeah, so that's the basic logistics. And then there's also, in addition to the online course session time, there's also going to be the Mighty Networks course rooms. And if you're not familiar, I have a website, or it's on Mighty Networks. We have our own site for the painting project, and each course has its own breakout room. And then we'll be able to post, and during the week, I'll be able to see the work you're doing and comment. And so that will happen to keep the continuity going. Any questions at this point about the logistics? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, good.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Should have asked that earlier on, I think. Okay, good. Okay, let's see. What else?
Paintings will we be doing? Is it one throughout the whole term, or is it?
No, not. It really depends. So first, we're going to be starting out drawing on paper, like I'm going to be doing here with line, working with the aspect of geometry, measuring. For some, that will come more easily. For others, it's going to be more of a muscle that needs to be worked. It's the simplest formal element, working with line, finding the proportions, finding the geometry of the forms. And because the means are so simple, pencil, paper, it gives us this great place to simplify the situation, where I'm learning how to see and mark with my pencil and get intimate with my seeing and my marking. And because I'm trying to be accurate, when I'm not, it's like, oh, that's not right, right? And so I'm able to, it's like, oh, I'm missing something. So the whole process is allowing or facilitating a kind of integration. My eye, my mark, my hand, my materials, my brain are becoming more and more in line, aligned together. I'm integrating my system. So we're going to be starting with that. And it also helps me like, oh, I have to slow down. So all those pieces come into play when we're starting.
Jordan?
We will move from that to a black and white. Now on your end, I would suggest you set up a still life situation that's very simple. One or two things, and you know, as we shift from, say, line to black and white, you're welcome to, like, okay, I'm tired of looking at that thing. I want to look at something else. That's fine, right? It doesn't have to be the same thing. It can be. It might be easier, but it doesn't have to be. So then we'll work on black and white paint and learn how to translate the situation into value shapes, how to mix, how to set up relationships, how to handle the paint, use the brushes. So that will be the second kind of stop along the way. And then there'll be a third. I mean, in terms of how many are you going to be doing during the 8 weeks? Because they're 8 weeks sessions, but this is really ongoing, right? Like, folks have been in my in-studio foundations course, like it's been years. They just come and it's just working and developing and exploring. And so, but for the 8 weeks, it really depends on how in tune your brain is with this sort of work, you know? So then from the black and white will be like an old master palette. That would be black, white, yellow ochre, Venetian red, terra verde, those 5. Working with dark and light, value, and warm and cool. After that, I don't know whether it's with, you know, depending on each person, this might happen. This might happen with, you know, for you. The next palette is working with intensity, saturation versus muted. So that would be ultramarine blue, cadmium red light, cadmium yellow medium, and white, just those 4. And then learning how to tone a color down with the complement and all of that sort of thing. So we're doing a lot of mixing. So that's the, generally speaking, the sequence. And then after that, someone who wants to expand on that last palette, you would move into, you know, 2 different kind of blues, 3 kind of reds, 3 yellows and white. And then it's like, whoa, there's a lot of directions we can go in. And that's not even moving into like adding back earth colors and the greens and the purples. I mean, it just goes on and on. But that's how we would just expand from there in terms of developing and mixing. Yeah. Other questions?
Jordan,
Yeah.
this is Bill. Thank you for this. Did you say in the beginning we'll need like 2 or 3 cameras if you only have your cell phone at home?
2.
Two.
2. What's that?
I have a phone on my Mac and I have a phone on the cell.
Yes, exactly. You know, most everyone now has their cell phone, right? And then there's some like an iPad or a laptop, or right. And so we've got 2. Most folks generally have 2 cameras that have access to, and so on the materials list, I have an inexpensive tripod and an inexpensive phone clip that goes onto the tripod. And so then you'll have one camera will be dedicated to on your paper or canvas, just like this one is.
Mhm.
That way I'll be able to see as you go what your work is. And then, I don't know if you were here, there's an app called Padlet, and you're going to take a photo from your point of view and upload it. And then I'll be able to, as you work, oh, I see what you're looking at from your point of view, as opposed to like, oh, that's a different point of view when I'm just looking through a camera, right? Different. So I want to be able to see where you're looking from.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other logistical questions? Okay.
Jordan,
Yeah.
Jordan. Hi, this is Susan. Not sure I totally followed that. So, well, I understand there's going to be a camera filming my paper or canvas. But did you say we have is the purpose of the second camera to watch you, or is it you said to
Yeah.
take?
So, okay, right now, you've got a camera that you're using to interface with me right now
Right,
as we're talking, right?
Yeah, so you can see me right now because I just on whatever.
Yeah, but this is how we're interacting through this camera.
Right.
Okay. So that stays. You're going to
Right.
add one more camera dedicated to your paper or
Okay.
canvas so that I can see a close-up of what you're doing
I see.
as you're working.
Okay. And then if we take if you want to see what we're actually trying to paint, we just take a still photo of that and upload it.
Yes, you will be doing that before you start.
Right.
So that
Okay.
as you go, I'm going to go and look at that online Padlet and go, oh, that's what Susan's working on. I see. Oh,
Okay.
and then I'm looking at your paper or I'm looking at your painting and I know what you're seeing.
Okay. I get it.
And
Thank you.
on my end, this gets recorded. You're not recording. I'm recording, and I will make that available for everyone in the course so you guys can go back over.
So, hi, it's Joyce. So we will be hearing your critique of all of our colleagues, all of our fellow students along the way. Is that right?
Yes. Now, if someone is uncomfortable with that, we can figure something out. Generally, that's what happens anyway when we're in a class together.
Right.
Right. And what I found is more or less that's valuable for everybody.
Right.
That everyone kind of gets like, oh, right, proportions, or oh, it's just part of the larger conversation of different things to think about. Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But we wouldn't need the camera as much as the audio, is what I'm thinking. For the second one, the one that you're watching or painting or drawing definitely need the video.
Yes, it doesn't necessarily need the audio. No.
Right.
No. In
Right.
fact, you're only going to want one to be functioning with audio. Otherwise, you're going to get
Right.
feedback.
Right.
Yeah. Right now, I've got actually 4 devices, but only one is working with audio.
So then, if we just had the camera with the tripod on our work,
Yeah.
with the audio on that,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be sufficient?
Well, you can, but it will be hard for you when you won't be seeing me painting, and you won't be, if there's just larger interaction or we're looking at other things or I'm showing slides or whatever it might be, you won't have access to that. So it just makes it more cumbersome. It's
Right.
possible.
Fair enough. Right. Okay. Got it. Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah. If there's a hardship involved, contact me and we'll figure something out.
No, just logistically, just trying to make it as simple as possible.
Of course, absolutely. it took me a while to figure out
Right, I could
how
see. Right.
to set something up that would work like it works in the studio. I've been teaching online courses for quite some time, and we have breakout sessions. We all gather together. We take a break. We're able to do that with the way now Zoom is set up. But this is different because everyone's really at their own pace, and I want to just be able to kind of like walk around the room as everyone's working, which is a different thing than gathering together. Because everyone has a different pace. So, other
So what-
thoughts, questions about any of the logistics?
Sorry, one other question. So if we wanted to do landscape as opposed to still life, would that be a problem?
Theoretically, no. It may be a little trickier. I don't know. I don't know your work. I don't know. Like, we're not. But it depends. Landscape is much more complex. It may be
Right.
harder to work on some of the aspects of geometry. And to that extent, it may be trickier getting to some of the mindfulness aspects. But that said, tonal situation, the tonal relationships are available, and with that, of course, there's a mindfulness aspect to it. We could talk about it and see. It's a little trickier because of complexity, because the light changes and all that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the truth is, of course, all the issues that are occurring with still life are occurring out in the landscape as well. It's just a more complex situation. And so getting a handle on all of these formal elements in terms of skill development, but also in terms of integration and awareness practice, it's just easier to get a handle on it with still life.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. Other questions or thoughts?
This is Mary Louise. Hi. I have a question regarding the organization of all these elements within my immediate working sort of studio space. I have the camera, the one on the tripod that's at my work. And let's say if I'm painting, where's my palette? And where is my palette in relationship to, my still life and what I'm working on and my canvas.
So can you see that camera that I'm pointing to right now back there that's got the overview of this whole situation?
I don't, but I see in the little drop down that I can maybe click on that.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay, so it would be, oh, okay, there you are. Okay, so I have you.
So here's my paper or my canvas. Here's my
Okay.
still life. Here, let's say, would be my palette.
Okay.
Okay, so then you can have, let's say you've got your iPad over here or something that you're talking and you're sort of with it, and then this would be, or you would put this one just on this.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's why I set up that far camera to give you a sense of what does that look like? What are we talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. The technology is amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
right. Now I've got a
very
grip.
excited.
This is what this is. This is a grip. You don't need all that. You could just get that simple tripod cell phone holder and it's done, and it's not expensive. It's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. So I think, gosh, I think we're ready to like do something. Sweet. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna draw. So you can see I've got that bowl there, right? So if this was the, excuse me, if this was the course, I'd take a picture of it, upload it to Padlet. You can see what I'm seeing from my point of view here. And then pencil, got my pencil, my eraser, my sharpener, my paper. So now you've got this view here. And I'm going to try to just put down the proportions, the contour lines of that bowl and that spoon. So let's see, for the recording, I'm gonna add this window so that this gets into it. See if people can see. Okay. So there are different ways of starting it out. You know, but I'm kind of like getting a feel for that ellipse and of the bowl, and like just kind of getting, moving my arm, and the way we would do that. Just kind of get a feel for it. Kind of find where I'm, just getting here. Where my feet are, and looking and getting comfortable, moving my arm and seeing, and okay. So doing this, right? And as I'm doing that, at some point, I want to check, I want to clarify, I want to see if my proportions are making sense in terms of what I'm seeing. And so I'm going to measure. So for those of you that aren't familiar with measuring, I'll explain that. And what ends up happening is I notice where my feet are. And I'm going to, let's say, compare the whole vertical amount of this shape to the horizontal, like that. So I've got this overall thing going on, and I want to just compare this to see if it's the same as what's over there. So what I'm doing is I'm looking through a grid. I've got this imaginary grid in my mind. And this grid is like the same as this paper. And so I'm learning how to translate this space into a flat situation by looking through this grid. And this grid, as I use it, is helping me stabilize my seeing. I'm seeing in relation to verticals. I'm seeing in relation to horizontals. And it helps me be still in my seeing as I use that grid. Now, I want to also say that for some people, measuring, analyzing the proportions, the angles, the shapes, it's using a part of the brain that you may not be used to using. And it may be frustrating. Like, oh, that's not what it doesn't look like, right? Now this is the practice. It's like, okay, this is frustrating. Okay, I'm just gonna slow down. I'm just slowing down. I'm gonna look again. And so where the goal really isn't, I mean, yes, one of the goals is to get these skills. Yes. But it's not a race. Getting there faster doesn't mean anything. Really, what we're trying to do is be present in our marking, in our seeing, as we make. That in the end is what is going to make the drawing or the painting strong. In the end, it isn't how realistic, it's how alive, right? So this desire for accuracy is a way for me to integrate my system and get me more intimately here. So we just keep coming back to that. And then, for some, the brain, your brain may be more comfortable with geometry and measuring. And for others, it might be more of a muscle that needs to get worked. But, it all comes along and you get used to it and it starts working and you get momentum. So, okay. So I'm going to measure. And the way I measure, I got my feet. I know where I'm looking. I'm extending my arm, locking my arm, putting my thumb at one point and the pencil at another point vertically like this. And that, from where I'm standing, is the vertical. And I'm going to compare it to the horizontal. And I put my thumb here. And I get one, that 1 1/3. So I'm going to see. Like 1, yeah, not bad. Okay, that's about right. So I'm checking my proportions. I'm not putting down the size, the literal size that I'm seeing. The literal size that I'm seeing is about literally that size. That's sight sizing. I'm not doing that. I'm getting the proportions. Now, if this isn't making sense and you want me to slow down and go over it, we will. We will. And with each of you, we'll slow it down and I'll work with each of you individually as you develop this skill. And so then I want to see, well, what about, okay, so there's this to this, and then there's like I want to check everything, right? So it's like, oh, well, what about that oval? Like where's that? I don't know. It's one. Okay, so I'm checking that and I'm comparing it to the lower part, and it's like 2/3. Like, so this is about 2/3 of that. Right now it's about the same. So that's not, yeah, I see it's the same. It's not. It's not. From where I'm standing, there's more foreshortening going on. It's more like there. Let's see. I want to find something that's going to fit in here like 2/3. So that's not bad. So I'm getting the oval is up here. So then it would be more like that. From the angle that I'm looking at it. Okay, we'll be in touch. So more like that. And then we have, and then I've got the base. So we have base works. It's something like one. Oh, it's like half of that. Oh, no kidding. That's like, oh, it's bigger than I thought. It's like, that's the thing, is measuring helps us see what we're not seeing. We take all kinds of we make all kinds of assumptions. We have all kinds of assumptions about, or it's like, oh no, that's not what's going on. Oh yes, that base really is bigger, isn't it? So this is just a real quick demo on geometry. And of course there's the spoon and it goes on and on. Any questions about this piece that I'm showing you right now? Because we could move into other things that might be more fun to watch.
Jordan, would you say it's a process of seeing to be or being to see, or both?
Seeing in order to be.
Yeah, when I'm watching you, I'm thinking the real lesson, and I definitely want to sign up for this class, is for me, it's going to be really learning hand-eye skills with non-attachment and non-judgment.
Right.
And the question I think about is, is that a mindset that I'm putting myself into in order to see? Or am I looking carefully at something to find myself in this non-attached, non-judgmental way?
They're the same. What ends
Same.
up happening is they just work back and forth so that as I work to see what I'm not seeing, I'm dropping extraneous thought that's getting in the way. And then I keep doing that. And I keep dropping more. It's like, no, that's not what okay, here we go. Here, And as I arrive at clear seeing, at the same time, I arrive at clear being. They go together. So that my perception, being clearly, intimately in my perception, is the same as being here. Because there's nothing extraneous occurring. I'm not busy trying to be somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. The whole thing, it's so lovely. And then you get this drawing at the end. So it's like, an added, bonus. You get an actual thing that you can look at that carries, that embodies that being here. That's why it's like you look at, these beautiful drawings and paintings, and they're full of presence because the person making them was so fully here. Wow. Yeah. Also, it's, again, this comes back to movement, but there's something about, generally when we think about mindfulness or we think about meditation, we're being still, right? Sitting still, right? Here we actually are making something, we're being creative, we're doing, this is an activity. But of course, it's like, oh, but like, right, music, poetry, dancing, right? All of that, all those aesthetic forms, all aesthetic form is that. In fact, anything that we're really involved with intimately with care becomes that, right? Okay. So I thought maybe we'll. Okay. So I on the list of demos, I thought of doing a little black and white start of that. You could do that, but it might be more fun to continue. I don't know what you guys want to do. I've got that painting that has been in all of the promo videos, and I was going to do that too. We're coming up on an hour. Should we just go to the fabric? I don't know which way to do it. I'm supposed to know this. Let's do. Any questions at this point?
Jordan, this is Darcy. I have a question. How do you see somebody that likes non-objective art style benefiting from this course?
So if your interest is more non-representational abstraction, non-objective, that work also calls for a deep integration of your eye, hand, sensibility, intuition, analytic. I mean, all of it, composition. I mean, all those things, and even non-representational work. The comes out of our experience of being in a body, in the world, in space, with light and form. So non-representational work, non-objective work it really comes from all of this. So there would be, your system would get more deeply integrated through this work, and your sensibility would sharpen in a certain way, and the experience of form, space, light, your color vocabulary, your mixing sensibility, all those things get enriched. by working from observation, like de Kooning, he was always working in some way with the figure, not necessarily from observation. He did that when he was younger. So he had that rich vocabulary association within him. But it all comes out of that. So the work itself may not be like where you're going to explore in terms of your own personal current, but I believe it would deepen and strengthen your path as a painter.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Who is that? Who's asking me that?
I'm Darcy.
Hi, Darcy. Okay. All right. I'm gonna paint. I'm gonna paint the fabric. That's what we're gonna do. I have to shift. Bear with me. More fun. Maybe nah, it's too much. Okay, we're back. That's too much. Let's stay with black and white. That's what we're gonna do. Okay. Okay. But I'm gonna continue that fabric. That's happening. Just maybe not at the moment. Like Rothko, I'm thinking about Darcy's question. Rothko, I mean, his sense of color, his sense of light, his sense, it comes out of his actual in the world experience, whether that's looking at a sunset or whatever it may be. Right. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to bring this third easel in, and let's get a little bit clearer view of the palette. Throw that on to the recording. Let's see. Did that just get? Oh, yeah, it did. How did that happen? Did I do that? Cool. Okay. I got a lot of light. I have southern exposure, so you get a lot of light coming in the morning. Let's see. Oh, okay. Sweet. All right. So I'm gonna work in black and white. We're gonna work with value, or at least I'm gonna explain, and as we go into value, I'll do more of a thorough explanation with value in the course. But right now I'm going to do a demo of just how I'd set up the painting to find value relationships. I've got some oil, got some black, white, palette knife, palette. Okay. So I'm going to be starting it up right. It's built on what we were doing in the drawing, finding that geometry. And let's say I've got my bowl, the opening, the ellipse. Find my proportions, lay in, the contour lines like I've known now. Okay, and I've got to work on it. It doesn't maybe I've got to erase it and I got to change it. And I got my rag, so I'm drawing. I'm drawing with my brush, finding right, and putting down the base right now. This is sort of where, okay, this is more or less where I was at with my pencil drawing. And maybe I, need to erase it and then change things. And I've got my rag and something clean this brush. My bad. Okay. Got a little green in there. Okay. So now, in order to find the value relationships, I'm putting one value next to another value. So I've got, it's not just that I'm finding the large contour lines. I want to see, well, I've got, there's a shadow in here and there's light hitting and there's light hitting here and there's shadow here. So I'm going to make a map of shapes for myself. How I see the different values, how I see different value shapes that I'm looking at. And I am drawing these different shapes of values. Like a map. Got the spoon. Then I've got the shadow of the spoon. I've got these highlights of the light of the window hitting there and turning into all kinds of shapes on the inside of the glaze of this bowl. And then I've got the light that's hitting here, and then it starts to turn slightly darker, right here, like that, and then what? And then what? And then it's like, what is going on? And I've got, this seems a little darker here. And then, right, but it's not just the bowl. There's the fabric. And I've got like, oh, I've got a shadow here. So as I start to work with value, I'm really working with a whole situation. There's this value and there's this value, and I've got the shadow here. And then it's still kind of shadowy, but it's softer over here. There's something going on. Gosh, a little bit darker, maybe right there. And over here, as I'm looking, oh wow, wait a minute. There's a lighter part of the fabric here, but then it looks kind of darker right next to it up here, and then right here, the fold as it moves to the back. It's like, oh wow, that gets a little bit lighter there. Okay, I'm not worried about filling in this whole thing. I'm not actually making it, I don't care. That's a study, right? I'm not worrying about composition or making a whole painting. I'm trying to understand value relationships and how to work them. Okay. So I want to paint the bowl. In order for me to find the bowl, I need to put something down next to it so that this is going to make sense. I think maybe I'm going to put something down here first. So what is this value? I don't know. It's a good question. It's certainly darker than the white of the bowl. I can see that. But it's not like dark, dark. It's certainly lighter than the shadow on this side. Let's see. Put something down. So when we first start putting our values down, it's really hard to know how close or far our values may be, because it's just all happening on white and we can't really, it's hard to tell. So we do our best. More brushes. We do our best, and as we go, we adjust. If we need to. We probably will. Let's see. Let's take this. And again, you know, this is a demo, we're online and I'm talking. When we work, trying to see it, I need to slow down. As I'm marking, that's way too dark. I can see that immediately. Too dark. Okay. Let's mix that again. A little lighter. Still, I think too dark. Feels too dark. As I'm painting, I'm dropping into my seeing. I'm getting intimate with this little area of the world where the bowl and the cloth meet. I'm going right there. Maybe I'll just continue a little bit down here. Except something. It's slightly lighter. Hopefully it won't be quite so bright. Let me get to it. Or I could drop that. We got the lighting. So looks a little better on that palette. That feels too dark. So it's not like I'm fixing it. People often are thinking, oh, I got it wrong and I'm fixing it. We're just developing it. We're just seeing more. That's all. A little dark, but well, maybe a little bit. And maybe something for up here. Slightly lighter. That's that. So putting this down, putting this down helps me be able to see this, right? Before it was just in relation to the white, it was just hard to know. That's another thing that happens as we, so there's the aspect of slowing down, being present, being intimate with our sense perception, our seeing what we didn't see before. There's also this aspect of relationship that is, as I work to find my value relationships, let's say, in order for me to find this spot of the value, I have to I have to do that in relation to the spot next to it and the other spot next to it. And I have to start attending to it, to the relationships. In order for me to understand anything, it's all about relationships. It's all in context. And so my brain starts to function differently. It's not about I mean, yes, to some extent, I'm isolating. I need to think about this. But then I need to think about this in relation to this and this and this and this. So it's this back and forth between understanding this piece, but then understanding this in relation to everything that else is going on. And so my brain is working both with the particular part and then the relationships start thinking relationally. I have no idea what value that. It's like, wow. The inside here, is it? I think it's yes, yes, yes. It's slightly lighter than that. Okay, okay. What is going on? And that's another thing. It's like, you know, we just go through the day. What do we have here? Eddie, you're welcome. We go through the day, and you know, we have to get through the day. We just kind of do what we need to do. When we slow down and try to draw or paint, just stuff that we know, it's like, wait a second. What's going on? I mean, with just the simplest thing, you know, just this physical object. It's like, what am I seeing? And it's like, whoa, how is that? What exactly am I seeing? I don't know. And so this kind of unassuming little mystery opens up right there. And it's like, oh my goodness. Now, dark. That's too dark. I gotta get a little lighter. Also got that blue rim. Dark light on it. See, also what's happening is, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm using a fairly big brush. So that's one of the things that we'll be working with is brush handling and paint handling and how to use the brush and how does that work? Because it's different, of course, than drawing with a line. It's more like working with a chisel that's flexible. How does that work? Make form in this little world inside this. And of course, I'm over to the side, actually. When I paint, I'd rather be here, but if I was doing that, then I'd be right in your way. So I'm going to stand over here. It's a little tricky, but not too bad. Oh, shit. And then right in there, it's a little darker. But you see, I think, how I'm piecing it together, yes? You have questions? Does anyone have any questions about the whole value shape relationship thing? Maybe. We don't know. All right.
Hey,
That's
Jordan,
cool.
I have this
What?
is Susan. I have a question. So you were
Susan?
saying that the white paper, can you hear me? The white paper kind of throws off the values.
Well,
So
the white is white. And so when I put something down, it's going to be darker in relation to the white than it would be if it was surrounded by darker values. It just would be. It's just, there's no way to get around that. I can't know if I've got the accurate value until I put other values right up against it.
Okay. I mean, that was my question, is that if you, it means that later on, you might have to adjust that value.
Exactly.
So it's hard to
Chances
get,
are I will be adjusting it later on. I mean, of course, you could also start with an imprimatura, a neutral gray as your ground. I mean, you could do that too. There's all, right, for sure. But it's still going to be adjusting. And those adjustments aren't because you made a mistake.
I see.
Those adjustments are just the process of finding the value relationships.
Yeah. And seeing and seeing it the way you're actually seeing it, and being conscious of that, as opposed to I should do this or I should do that.
Exactly.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
right. That's right. Other thoughts about any of this? Okay. Let's take, why don't we shift, and I'm gonna take off a couple of these windows. 1 second. Let's take this off. Remove pin. Okay, it's me. So, any questions that folks have about any of the things that we've been talking about or covering or haven't been talking about? So I mentioned the course is ongoing, right? It's so that it's not, the intention isn't that it's just an 8-week course. The intention is that it will just keep going, but it will be in blocks of 8 weeks. And there's also the possibility if folks know that they may not be in town or they're going to be traveling or whatever it may be, there's also the possibility of doing purchasing a punch card, which just goes by session, by each particular, each class you show up, instead of registering for the 8-week course as such. So that's also a possibility, and it should be, you can find it in the email on the webpage, and if not, email me. And they're recorded. I think I mentioned that. So all the sessions will be recorded. Yeah. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions?
I just have a response to the experience of the demo, which is I've signed up for a number of how to draw classes through the years, and I just never really have gotten to a point where I feel anything other than frustration. And your invitation to be with what we're seeing, and in that way also be less judgmental about what we're able to render, and in terms of making adjustments and calling them developments, all of these things are making me relax. My whole body is just sort of relaxing into this, for me, new way or possibility of actually rendering.
Wonderful.
I'm excited about it.
Fantastic. This is Howell, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Hey there.
Yeah. There's, these are skills, right? Depiction is a bunch of skills. And those skills can be framed in terms of, trying to get something done and create an object or create a picture or an image. But there's also we can reframe all of this as exploring ways of being. And that really what's making itself available is a much deeper kind of exploration that painting affords, that isn't about coming up with an object, and if I like it, I put it on the fridge, and that's nice. I mean, sure, of course, but we get to explore being here. We get to explore living through painting and drawing, which is extraordinary. It's just extraordinary. Anyway, thank you for your feedback. That's great. Other thoughts or questions? Okay. Well, space is limited. So if you're interested, please, send me an email or click on the link or in the emails. What else? I'm looking forward to it. It's coming up January 9th, the first full week of January. That's it. Anyone else? Maybe we'll sit for a second. I want to see.
I have a question.
Sure.
This is Adrienne, and I've had a lot of experience, a lot of years skill building, and I guess my skills are okay. Of course, they could be a lot better, but I am now dissatisfied with making pretty pictures. And your technique resonates with me as how I started, just being with the objects in front of me. And I'm more interested in leaning towards non-objective, somewhere in the middle. And I'm wondering if this course or a different one would be more appropriate for me. Because I kind of see this as a way of slowing down and really getting into it.
Right.
But I don't know where I'm going. And
sure.
And my objective is no longer to just make a nice picture. So I'm not sure.
Right. So it sounds like there may be a number of different things going on for you. One may be there's something appealing about the whole slowing down and something about what I'm presenting as working from observation as a means of doing that. But it also sounds like you've got this larger possibility of deeper exploration.
Yeah.
In terms of your painting practice. So there are different kinds of courses that I offer online. In addition to this, I'm going to be offering Painting Through Modern Masters. It's a series where we explore what different modern painters have done, and we kind of take that on as a way of saying, well, what does painting do? Like, so we're looking at Cezanne and Matisse, and then after that, we're going to be working with Diebenkorn.
Diebenkorn is my idol.
Yeah, he's great. Totally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Diebenkorn comes out of Matisse and Cezanne, and so that's a way of, we're going to do 4 weeks of Cezanne's, 4 weeks of Matisse, and then in March and April, 8 weeks with Diebenkorn. But then there's also, after that, I offer at other times painting as creative empowerment, which is more like exploring painting through the lens of different emotional states. There's different courses dealing with composition. There's all kinds of structures as ways of exploring. We just are wrapping up a non-representational abstraction working on paper. That's been fabulous, and that came after a painting, doing that on a large painting. So there's all different kinds of structures. Depending on where the person's at, there's the possibility of individual sessions and critiques. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm happy if you want to follow up with a conversation to think about what might make sense right now. I'm happy to be in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Anyone else? Any other thoughts or questions? Okay. Well, this was a blast. I enjoyed this, and thank you all for joining this demo, and I think I'm gonna take this recording and I'll make it available if anyone's interested. And if you have any questions about the upcoming courses, let me know. I think that's it. Nice to see you all. Some of you I know, some of you I don't. So I look forward to catching up with the folks that I know and getting to know the folks that are new for me. Okay. And
Thank you, Jordan.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Jordan.
You're very welcome. And
Yeah, this is great, Jordan.
sweet. Thank you.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, you bet. And have a great holidays and New Year, and keep painting and drawing and staying sane in these times. So be well, everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.